रा गिरिधा
अशोच्यान् तमुवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः.
The loveliest and the most charming form of God or avatar that ever existed, said in two verses about the state of Arjuna at this present moment that we are going through. And since she had digested Gita and Bhagavad, which she has said she was reading, she says, भारत में अर्जुन के आगे आप भयारथवान, अर्जुन कुल का लोग निहारा, छूट गया तीर कमान. So she says that in Bharat or in India, O Lord, you became the charioteer or the driver of the chariot of Arjuna. But Arjun, when it was a time to start war, he saw his relatives and his bow and arrow slipped away from his hand. So this tells us the entire chapter 1 and up to the slok number 9 that we have been talking about. She says that this is how we may want to meditate on Gita. There is another thing when we talk about Shishya and Guru that comes to my mind because of Gita and Bhagavad. I might want to mention, because Bhagavad is a scripture of love, it much easily gives us the directions that Gita is giving us in a loving manner. And again, it is Sri Krishna Bhagwan's life. So we are talking about same Lord or same saint who is giving us the scriptures. In Bhagavatam, on the 11th skand, Sri Krishna Bhagwan's last message before departure is what we call Uddhav Gita, just like this is called Arjun Gita, if we may want to say so. And in the Uddhav Gita, Sri Krishna Bhagwan said that there are 24 gurus and they are all from nature. So when we are concerned about the gurus, the deception, the difficulties, and we ask who is my right guru and wrong guru, I think that it will be very wise to know who those 24 gurus are. And if you will meditate on this or acquire a copy of Bhagavad and read in the 11th skand, I would want to mention those 24 gurus. In other words, you can learn from this. God has put gurus all around us in the nature. And so wherever you may be, these gurus are always around you. And they have always been there, they are today, and they will remain tomorrow as long as we exist in this creation. So let me read these two sloks in the Bhagavatam, which are very similar like Gita. पृथिवी वायुः आकाशम् आपः अग्निः चन्द्रमा रविः कपोतः अजगरः सिन्धुः पतङ्गः मधुकृत् गजः मधुः हरिण मीनः पिङ्गला कुररः अर्भकः कुमारी शरकृत् सर्प ऊर्णनाभिः सुपेशकृत्. These are the slok number 33 and 34 in the Bhagavad, Skand 11th and chapter 7. Be sure these are the sloks not of the Gita but in the Bhagavatam. And what it says, that these can be our gurus. I am not going to go into the detail of each one. Someday, if I have an opportunity, we might consider this. but I would like you to put to rest your difficulties about finding the Guru. The Guru is right here. It says the earth, the air, the sky, the water, the fire, the moon, the sun, the pigeon, the python, the sea, the moth, the bee, the elephant, the honey gatherer, the deer, the fish, the courtesan pingla, the osprey, the child, the maiden, the arrow maker, the snake, the spider, and the particular insect known as Brahmarakrit. These are the 24 gurus from which we can learn all we need to learn to acquire our spirituality and our ultimate love of God. You will never need a human guru because God knows that human gurus do make errors out of pride and arrogance, but these elements that God has made in nature, they don't change their characteristics, and so if we learn from their characteristics what they are all about, then we will find that we can acquire those characteristics and we would have become saintly or like Mirabai, the lover of God. The 25th Guru is also considered the body. We can learn from body so much, we don't pay attention to the body, but body is constantly teaching us how to eat, how to sleep, how to get the best work out of this donkey that we are supposed to ride. Often the donkey is riding us, the body is controlling our life, rather than body becoming an instrument of our journey, a journey towards spirituality. So I think this will be very interesting as becoming a disciple. Well, where is the Guru? Then Sri Krishna Bhagavan says, there is this Guru. There is another difficulty we find about the lectures that we hear, the reading we do. There was a great saint called Shankaracharya about 1200 years ago in his Vivek Chudamani, which is a beautiful scripture about discrimination and Vedantic knowledge, and I would very much refer to it for those who are interested in knowing more about the quintessences about the Vedanta knowledge. He has said in Vivek Chudamani that these gurus who talk so much, constantly talking about Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana and all that, you have to watch out what is happening here. He says, Vak, Vaikhari, Shabdazari, Shastra Vyakhyanam, Kaushalam, Vaidusham Vidusham Tadvad Bhukte Natu Mukte. He says these teachers and these gurus who are giving loud speeches and colorful shows of music and dance, they consisting of showers of words, the skill in expounding the scriptures, and likewise erudition, these are merely bringing a little personal enjoyment to us. We spend some couple of hours like a social gathering to the scholars, but they are no good for liberation. So when Shankaracharya ji says that all these gatherings and all these listenings and loud speeches, it is only for a temporary mental ease, just like we are going to a movie. Movie does the same thing, gives us a temporary relief, but it is no good for our liberation. So we want to be very careful. This is a jungle of scriptures. Another sloka says, Shabdajalam Maharanyam Chitta Brahmana Karakam Ataha Prayatnat Gatavyam Tattvigyehi Tattvam Atmanaha. What he says is that the scriptures consisting of many words are a dense forest which merely causes the mind to ramble, just like when we are lost in a jungle. Hence, men of wisdom should earnestly set about knowing the true nature of the self or Atman. And that is what we are going to begin to enter in Gita now. The true nature of self, true nature of Mira, true nature of love, true nature of God, and that means true nature of ourselves, who we really are. This will be the beginning of our entering this knowledge. But here are the cautious words, sometimes admonition to those who speak loud words and attract people and make a show of religion which was supposed to be really done, kept in secret, and help people secretly rather in open, uh, nurturing pride and ego and arrogance. So all the saints have constantly cautioned us, particularly the people like us who are ignorant and we are so gullible, and in the name of religion we will just run around like chicken without head anywhere and do anything, and later on we find out that it was not only waste of our time but energy, and that we will still be answerable to God why we did not learn the truth. There will be no excuse whatsoever for our remaining ignorant, because God has given us the intellect, God has given us the discriminative faculty to be developed. When it comes to knowing education or marriage or children, we know everything about it. Or if we don't know, we find it out. There is always a way to find out. If we don't have money, we'll borrow, we'll buy, hopefully not steal. But somehow we will find means to achieve our goal. Then in this world we do everything to fulfill our desires. Our secret desire to know God is there, but we do hardly do nothing about it. So that will be another excuse that God will not listen, our conscience will not listen. We will not have our own excuse. We will be frustrated and we will feel very sorry at the end of life that we only deceived ourselves. There is nothing to deceive God, there is nothing to deceive anybody else. The only deceptor we are ourselves, and the person who we have deceived is only ourselves. We have never deceived anybody else. These are some of the aspects of knowledge, the teachings of the saints, and all of us want to be vigilant. My purpose here is to make you not only beware but show a path that you will trade yourself, you will be the proof, you will be paying the price, you will be benefiting the results, you are not doing for anybody else, and so it is your concern. Do not worry about others' concern, or you are doing good for the society. Everything else will be taken care of if you will take care of yourself. Gita already says that in Uddharet Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avsadayet. Those two sloks in chapter 6, slok 5 and 6 will tell you. If you will have a book and read and refer to those, I would not want to lengthen these discourses unwarrantedly, but at the right time we will be talking about it. However, I am speaking of those in substance and in summary, that we alone can lift ourselves, nobody else can help. Of course, God is there within us who is helping, and God being ourselves, we are saying that we alone can help, means God can help us. We don't want to be egotistic to say that we can help ourselves without the help of God. When we say we can help ourselves, we can always help only through the help of God and only with the thorough humility, like Mirabai, that we are the servant of God and that we are only here to carry out the order and the law that God has made. We do not have choice, we think we have choice, there is an apparent appearance of freedom. Sometimes I may point out that in the question of teacher and disciple, in my own experience, every time I have mentioned through goodwill, because I know that I don't want to become a guru. To become a guru is to become a slave of a disciple. I have met some saints in Mount Abu in India, and they have told me the same thing. That if you have a disciple, they will, and any time you tell him what to do, he will immediately ask why. So this why business, they are not humble, they don't want to learn, and it is simply a waste of time. But what I am talking about is this. Whenever we mention that you have to be humble and you have to surrender to the law, to the truth, to the saints, to God, they think that they are losing their freedom. But we have already mentioned that we surrender to Maya, which we already described, to ignorance. We have surrendered to our pride, our ego and arrogance. We have surrendered to these passions, the greed and lust. Everyone knows how much slave we are of stock market, of man slave of woman, and woman the slave of men, and parents slave of children, and we are all slaves of cars. There is nothing that we are not slave of. And yet when we say that if we want to surrender to God, who is freedom himself, and he is going to give us freedom so that we will remain freedom, and yet we don't want to do that. That is Maya. That is appearance of wisdom that man thinks that we are losing our freedom when we talk about surrendering to God or surrendering to a wise saint. They think that, well, we are losing our freedom. We cannot do it. We don't want to do it. But they have already surrendered to Ravan or Duryodhan, and they will soon realize that either you surrender to Ravan or Duryodhan or the devil, or you surrender to God. We have no other option. You will never remain in a situation or a state where you are not surrendered. Either you are surrendered to our ignorance and Maya, or you are surrendered to God. And Mira tells us, wiser are those who surrender to God. So I hope that this misunderstanding of the difficulty of surrendering and thinking of your freedom, let me say that it is nothing but your pride. It is your pride that is speaking, a hidden pride that you want to stay free. You don't want to surrender to anybody. Unfortunately, these gurus have shown such a bad example, so some of them have felt that we don't want to surrender to this kind of gurus. I understand that, but that does not mean that you want to blindly just continue thinking the same thing and not try to find out the truth, that you will have to surrender. Only thing is to surrender to the right person, that is a saint, or surrender to the true principles that Gita is teaching. You don't have to surrender to any person as such. Surrender to the law. And the law is yama and niyama, the disciplines, and the law is brahmacharya, as Gita says, the law that God has given us. That is what we have to surrender. We don't have to surrender to any human being if you don't want. Saints don't feel bad if you don't surrender to them. They don't want you to surrender to them. They want you to love. They want to love you, and you should love them. That is the only relation they want. They don't want any other thing, as if you are a slave and just do like a slave and a master and a slave. That is not the issue here at all. As a matter of it is a relation of love. I think there is a question here in the crowd.
What is brahmacharya?
What is brahmacharya is a good question. Actually, it is a very fundamental requirement in path of spirituality. Brahmacharya means, Brahma means Lord, or one of the name of God, which cannot be described. In Hindu scriptures, he describes as neti, neti, means not this, not this. Whatever we conceive, God is not there. It is beyond what we think, what we feel, what we experience, and what we call. God is something beyond that. He cannot be reached by the speech even. So, that God, what we call Brahman, Brahma and Brahman, all our activities, all our hopes, all our aspirations, all our thoughts should be directed towards Brahman. So Brahmacharya is consisting of two words, Brahman, and Charya means action or the path. The path or actions that lead to God is called Brahmacharya. And we should lead all our five organs of knowledge and five organs of action. We will be speaking of those in the later passages. But what we are saying is that we should be totally dedicated with our mind, body, intellect, and ego. That is what brahmacharya is. In normal sense, we speak of as continence, but or sexual control, but it is not so. It is a very limited meaning. Controlling our trishna, controlling our desires, is what Buddha Bhagavan has said. It is what before Buddha, Jain scriptures, Mahavir had said the same thing. Controlling the five organs, that is the very foundation of Jain religion, which is offshoot of Hinduism again. Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Asteya, and Aparigraha. This is the foundation of Jain religion, which is brought from Hindu religion. So, Brahmacharya then means all our actions, thoughts, and intelligence directed towards God. Now then, having said enough about the difficulties of this path, difficulties that Arjuna is going through, and we having taken the pause, having examined and re-examined all our thoughts, the reason why I feel to repeat or explain the same thing again and again through several saints, that these are not my opinions, this is not my theory, this is not me talking, these are the saints. We borrow from them. Even Sri Krishna Bhagavan said that when he talks, he is talking about the avatar before him. So truth has always been there. We are only speaking of truth that has come out through the mouths and sweet lips of Mirabai, that we are trying to recollect, try to use those words, try to do justice to all religions, all truths. Even if we want to do injustice, we cannot do that. So I try to bring out these passages which are direct words of the saints, so that you may be able to make your own judgment. Whatever comments I am giving is my feeling, what I have gathered in my 30 years experience, in a very humble way, in a humbling way, trying to put things together of several saints, their teachings. We as human beings are so subject to weakness that more we refer to the original scriptures and more freedom we give you to make your own study and decisions, better it will be. That is the always way. Sri Krishna Bhagavan is also going to do the same with Arjuna. He is going to give him the freedom to choose after he has given him all the advice of the saints. Even Sri Krishna Bhagavan has done the same thing. He has taken the message of several thousands of saints before him, which is put together by Vyas Muni in Bhagavad Gita. So naturally we respect those saints. We hope that we may approach them even a little higher. That will be a great achievement for us in this life, because we take birth after birth, 84 lakhs of births. Life goes on and on until we realize God. We die and we are reborn. Our real death will be when the death of desires, of the temporary things, what we call kshanik or passing away, that doesn't give us the joy but rather pain. So when we come out of this, then we will say that we have ended our life, or that there will be no more birth and death. So all the saints are talking about immortality, and that is what we want. We want to become immortal. As a matter of fact, we are immortal, but we don't realize it, we have forgotten it, and all we are trying to do here is that what we already are. I don't think that you can bring God from outside. You are already God, and here we are making attempt to simply realize that, to make you understand that you are part and parcel of God, and if you follow certain disciplines, you will realize that. Nobody can give you what you already have, which is God Himself. So keep this in mind, that you have to make efforts. Dharma gurus don't bless you by putting their hand on your head or giving false blessings. There are no stupid mantras, no matter how great the mantras may be. It is a hard path. It is a path where you will have to perspire, you will have to dedicate, you will have to give everything you have. And as I say again and again, there is no free lunch. If anybody is telling you that you can do something without understanding or in an easy way, you are already being deceived. It is a hard work. Saints were not foolish to spend all their life, 50, 60 years in caves, meditating, dedicating, giving up all the physical pleasures. Buddha, Mirabai, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Shankara, Jesus, and Muhammad, they were no fools to give up all the physical pleasures, the kingdoms, to realize God. So anytime you have an idea that by giving some money to your gurus or building temples you are going to realize God, I think you are already under delusion. So sooner you stay away from all these illusions of the Maya, wiser you will be. This in mind then, let us see as we move on to what Sri Krishna Bhagavan will have to say to Arjuna, who has now shown his ignorance, We have examined our own ignorance, we have examined the ignorance of the society and the world and religions, and now we want to come out of it. One of the reasons of examining or diagnosis disease is to find a solution. We are here to find a solution to our problem. But if we don't understand the problem, we just certainly cannot have the right solution. So far what we have discussed the disease, we are trying to diagnose it, we are trying to find the medicine, and now Sri Krishna Bhagavan is going to advise us what the real medicine is. So we will move on to the next slok and let's see what is happening in this battlefield, or as we have said in this metaphor, remember that Sri Krishna Bhagavan is not that Sri Krishna Bhagavan who came to an end when some shikari used an arrow in his foot and he died. That is not the Sri Krishna we are talking about. We are not talking about Arjun who has felt depressed here in the battlefield and doesn't know his wisdom and is attached by his relatives. We are talking about that Sri Krishna within us. We are talking about that Arjun within us who is now depressed or confused or not very happy as he should be. So again we want to remind you that we don't get attached to the name, because God is without name and form. And any time you give name or form, we already limited God, which is unlimited, and then we already started the confusion. But these are the inevitabilities, difficulties with human mind, which has a limited capacity, and yet we have unlimited force or power or love within us that we are hoping to bring in this battlefield to help us out, like Arjuna has done by surrendering to Lord so that he can be helped. Now in then slok 10, Tam uvacha Rishikesha prahasan iva bharata senayor ubayor madhye vishidantam idam vachaha. Now that Arjuna has kept quiet, he has run out of his energy, all his arguments, Sri Krishna Bhagavan has been listening, watching. Sri Krishna is again here addressed as Rishikesham. That means one who has Sanyam, discipline, Brahmacharya, one who is always above Yam and Niyam. And we must remember these adjectives because it is merely a reminder that these virtues are absolutely necessary, whether we talk of the virtues of Arjun or vices of Arjun, and of course the virtues of Sri Krishna Bhagavan. There is no vices in Sri Krishna Bhagavan. Sri Krishna and saints are supposed to be above virtues and vices. So when we talk about virtues and vices together, it is only Arjun or Sansari. Sri Krishna Bhagavan always has only virtues within our field of understanding. And of course he is also beyond virtues. That we will be talking later. Now when this Rishikesha, Sri Krishna Bhagavan saw his disciple who has sought his help, and in such a pathetic situation, he knows that his understanding is not correct. So when he sees him in the middle of the two armies, despondent, crying, shivering, perspiring, full of sorrow, then Sri Krishna Bhagavan speaks to him now that the time has come to help him, time of operation. Actually, it's a serious operation. It's like a bypass. 4 bypass, I don't know how many bypasses. All the bypasses, everything is blocked. There is no blood circulation in Arjun right now. And so a serious operation has to be conducted. But even in operation, the doctor knows that he can do it, and the patient is going to live, so he is cheerful. So Sri Krishna Bhagavan is smiling as if, not that he is happy at his depression, but he knows that this is all childish and this is not the real problem anyway, that we are going to win and that he is going to get up and fight. So knowing this, then he is cheerful. And so we should also be cheerful when we are facing such a difficult situation. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.